Judas Priest guitarist Glenn Tipton is responsible for some of the most memorable guitar solos in classic heavy metal history. Hellbent for Leather, Livin' After Midnight, You've Got Another Thing Comin', Turbo Lover, Painkiller, and A Touch of Evil, just to name a few. But the one that seems to stand out above all others for many fans is his tour de force solo on the haunting Beyond the Realms of Death. This deeply emotional song appears on Judas Priest's fourth studio album entitled Stained Class, and it actually features two really great solos, one by Glenn Tipton and a second one at the end of the song by KK Downing. And while KK's solo is pretty much impeccable, Glenn reached an entirely new level on this song, so much so that it drew comparisons to David Gilmour, and is still considered by many to be one of the very best guitar solos in heavy metal history. And that's the solo that we're going to break down and analyze today. And I apologize in advance if I sound a little stuffed up, but I'm just getting over a really bad cold, and it really knocked me out for a couple of days. So I'm going to do my best in this video. Welcome to Licks of the Beast. I'm Nico, and this is your go-to place for all things heavy metal and guitar playing. Music history, gear talk, covers, tutorials, and deep dives into some of the most iconic heavy metal songs ever. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a new video. This solo is a long one. At a tempo of just 86 beats per minute, Glenn is going at it for a total of 33 bars. And you know what the best part is? He's keeping you absolutely enthralled for the entire duration of those 33 bars, each and every time you listen to it. Now that is what I call masterful lead guitar playing, and that's why I believe the solo deserves a closer look. So with that in mind, let's get right into it. The opening lick alone is so iconic and memorable. Now, Glenn's fingering is a bit unusual for the key of B minor, and his phrasing and articulation are really interesting. So he starts off with a descending motif that alternates between slides and alternate pick notes. Then it changes direction and becomes ascending. So you get a sense of build up and release in the first bar alone. Now that's some serious storyteller style lead playing, and it's the kind of thing that makes Glenn Tipton such a masterful player. The second lick is all about controlled bends, and that gives a very expressive vocal-like quality, almost like crying. Now this is one of the reasons for the comparisons to David Gilmour. The next lick also features a very vocal-like expression with elaborate phrasing that includes slides, rests, hammer-ons and pull-offs, a chromatic flat fifth, and a nicely placed pinch harmonic as a strong accent. That's such a great phrase. Let me do that one again. That ties into the fourth lick. Now this one is a bit more linear in the way it moves up the scale into the higher octave, but there's an important subtlety to watch for when it comes to the timing. So there's a slight push-pull thing going on where the subdivision of the notes isn't always exactly the same throughout. So it sort of feels like he's playing just slightly behind the beat, but then the accents are all 100% dead on. This is actually a key characteristic of Glenn's playing style, and it reminds me a little bit of Adrian Smith as well. The fact that he ends the lick on the sharp 7, on the 4th beat of the measure, and leaving a rest on the upbeat as an empty space is just a brilliant way to create tension. That's because it's unresolved, and your ear is begging for that home note, the tonic. So when Glenn hits that bend from A to B to start the next measure, right, it's just so incredibly satisfying. We're now in the second half of the solo, and this part features some really slick use of the minor blues scale with some very vocal-like phrasing. There are a lot of subtleties here, as Glenn is playing with a lot of finesse. The smoothness of his legato and that minor blues motif, the little rest at the end of the first phrase, the back-to-back bends with a slight release on the second one, and I love the way he comes out of that bend with a third iteration of that minor blues motif, leading to the end of the phrase with the choppy pick descending line using slides to move down the B minor scale from the 5th to the tonic. You know, it's important to keep in mind that all those solos that just hit different, they all contain many of those little subtleties and nuances. And one of my goals for these videos is to, in some way, help pass these things on to the next generation of guitar players, so that it doesn't one day end up a lost art. So if there's a guitar solo or a song that you'd like me to break down and explain in a future video, please do let me know in the comments. This next part paraphrases the song's opening melody just before the first verse. And from there, it flows into the next lick via a short ascending phrase using the minor hexatonic scale. Now from there, he repeats that satisfying bend from the minor 7th to the tonic on the B string, except now he doubles down on it and then hits it a third time as a slow, deliberate bend for added emphasis and tension. So with that third bend, you're essentially teasing that home note as you raise the pitch slowly and deliberately. Glenn continues to build on that with a descending motif based on the minor blues scale. Right, now those little pinch harmonics really add something. So what could have been just a basic line and a standard pattern ends up sounding like something really cool that actually stands out. And that turns into yet another ascending hexatonic minor phrase that mirrors the choppy descending run that he played earlier in the solo. Now from here on, he just keeps flowing from one phrase to another, continually moving towards the highest register so that the intensity builds until the solo's climax. Now that ending is so incredibly powerful because it's like this pent-up energy that gets released all at once. But then we get to that final descent with deliberate triplets down to the major second, right, which Glenn holds for a whole bar, and you know that it'll resolve here. So that's the minor third over the 1 chord. So after the release of that energy, the feeling changes to deep, bitter sadness, especially as he holds that last note for 4 bars and allows it to swell into this wonderful feedback. I think it's really important to appreciate all of these small but very significant details when analyzing an iconic solo like this one. Beyond the notes, it's the phrasing, the articulation, and all of the subtleties that we discussed in this video that make this solo so utterly unforgettable. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more licks of the beast.